I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Donald Trump takes another massive L in federal court. That's right. Federal Judge Alvin Hellerstein from the Southern District of New York Federal Court just rejected Donald Trump's attempt to try to remove or transfer the criminal case filed by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg against Donald Trump in Manhattan, in New York State Court. Trump tried to remove that case to federal court in the Southern District of New York because Donald Trump thought that it was just so unfair how he was being treated. So Donald Trump's arguments were that the claims being asserted invoked federal jurisdiction because Donald Trump claimed that he was in office at the time of the alleged criminal conduct. Trump claims this conduct that he was alleged to have committed occurred within the course and scope and in furtherance of his official duties. And Donald Trump claimed that he would be asserting many federal defenses and immunities. Well, Judge Alvin Hellerstein, the federal judge, vehemently disagreed and rejected this. Just so you remember, Manhattan District Attorney's criminal case that was filed a few months back against Donald Trump is for 34 separate felony counts for Trump's falsification of business records. Donald Trump making hush money payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels via a intermediary, Michael Cohen, who would make the payments to Stormy Daniels, ultimately paying her off $130,000, and then Donald Trump making payments to Michael Cohen and calling those payments legal reimbursement when it was actually covering up hush money payments. But, you know, the judge's decision here is even worse than just rejecting Donald Trump's jurisdictional motion. It just shows you what bad lawyering took place here by Donald Trump, because this is a jurisdictional motion. Donald Trump claimed the state court, Judge Juan Merchan, the Manhattan Supreme Court justice, that's the trial court judge in New York, who's presiding over the criminal case, didn't have jurisdiction. So Trump said, bring it to federal court. Well, the court went before Federal Judge Alvin Hellerstein. I'm going to read from you portions of Judge Hellerstein's order, but in this order, basically, Judge Hellerstein makes a finding saying that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office put forward substantial evidence that Donald Trump engaged in the criminal conduct that is underlying the criminal case. And as part of the Manhattan District Attorney showing that this did not involve Donald Trump's duties in connection with his role when Trump was in office, the Manhattan District Attorney put forward substantial evidence, Federal Judge Alvin Hellerstein says, showing that Donald Trump made these unlawful hush money payments. So Donald Trump turned a jurisdictional motion into an order that just essentially establishes his guilt, that the Manhattan District Attorney can point to and say, even a federal judge made a finding that there was substantial evidence of Donald Trump's crimes. Let's pull up Judge Alvin Hellerstein's order right now. Here it is, order and opinion granting motion to remand. And just so you know what remand means, it basically means send the case back to state court. By the way, when Donald Trump removed or filed a notice of removal, which automatically brings the case to federal court pending a motion to remand filed by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, Judge Alvin Hellerstein knew right away Donald Trump was trying to delay. So Judge Hellerstein said to Judge Juan Merchan, the state court judge, keep going with what you're doing. I don't want the removal to slow down the proceedings that are taking place in state court. And Judge Juan Merchan set a trial date in connection with the Manhattan District Attorney's case. Trial is now set for March of 2024. So Judge Alvin Hellerstein, this is his order and opinion granting the motion to remand. And in his order, Judge Alvin Hellerstein sets out the elements that Donald Trump would have to prove in order for the case to be removed to federal court. Here's the legal standard. To exercise federal officer removal jurisdiction, the district court, the federal judge, must determine 1, the removing party is an officer of the United States. 2, that the suit against the officer is, quote, for or relating to any act under color of such office. And 3, that the officer has raised a colorable federal defense. So you have to show all 3 right there. And the removing party, in this case, Donald Trump, remember, he wants to take a case from state court and bring it into federal court. The removing party bears the burden of demonstrating the removal was proper. So then the judge goes into the various elements and says, number 1, I'll accept for purposes of this ruling that Donald Trump satisfies the first condition, that being the president, even though Donald Trump disgraced the office, the judge doesn't say that, but given that Donald Trump held that office in the federal government and disgraced our country, Donald Trump constitutes an officer of the United States. But then Donald Trump says, for purposes of element 2, that the suit against the officer is for or relating to any act under color of such office. The judge says, we held an evidentiary hearing here, and here's what the evidentiary conclusion concluded, according to the judge, that the Manhattan District Attorney put forth evidence strongly supporting their allegations that the money paid to Cohen was reimbursement for a hush money payment. And then it talks about one of the exhibits that were introduced that shows a handwritten notation by someone in the Trump organization, likely the CFO, calculating how much Cohen was to be repaid for advancing the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels, Stephanie Clifford, and how the payment to him was to be disguised as income rather than reimbursement. Trump himself in a May 2018 tweet described Cohen's, quote, monthly retainer as reimbursement in connection with a private contract. So for those reasons and some others, Federal Judge Alvin Hellerstein says this was not for or relating to any act under the color of what you were doing as the president. In other words, you weren't doing this in furtherance of those duties. This has nothing to do with you being holding a federal office. This has to do with you committing a crime. And so therefore, element 2 is not demonstrated. That alone would lead to a remand in this situation. But just for good measure, Federal Judge Alvin Hellerstein in the Southern District of New York also then addressed Donald Trump's potential defenses. And one of the defenses Donald Trump raises is that he has immunity, and Judge Hellerstein says you don't have immunity. Trump also claims federal preemption and says that federal campaign finance law preempts the state criminal statutes that Donald Trump is being prosecuted under, and the judge says there is no federal preemption there at all. And Judge Hellerstein says one of Donald Trump's other arguments about Trump saying he can't get a fair shake in state court and therefore federal courts need to come to his rescue, that Donald Trump has put forward no evidence on that. Here's the conclusion. Trump has failed to show that the conduct charged by the indictment is for or relating to any act performed by or for the president under color of the official acts of a president. Trump has also failed to show that he has a colorable federal defense to the indictment. For either or both of these reasons, the people's motion to remand the case is granted. The clerk shall remand the case file to the New York Supreme Court, New York County. Just so you're not confused, in New York, it's very confusing. Their trial court, the lower court, is called the Supreme Court. And their highest court is called the Court of Appeal. New York just wants to throw us off a little bit there. Okay, so what happens right now? This case will not be in federal court. The case will continue to proceed in state court before Judge Juan Merchan, who Donald Trump says is out to get him, just like Donald Trump claims with every judge. Trial is set for March of 2024. The only thing that I think could potentially delay that trial date is going to be special counsel Jack Smith's criminal cases, because sometimes the federal criminal cases take priority over state criminal cases. So we will see there, but things are moving. Another loss for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump just turned a jurisdictional motion. And as you saw what I read, a finding by a federal judge that there's substantial evidence of Donald Trump's underlying crime, which is why the act does not relate to anything under the color of official acts. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Another Trump L. Another W for democracy. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers. Thanks to you. You think we can get there this summer? I do. Hit subscribe. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Wherever you get audio podcasts, subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Hit subscribe. Have a great day.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.